Thank you, Ismail. I would like to invite Mila to make her presentation, please. Her intervention.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My esteemed colleagues here at the panel have really done an excellent job of summarizing some of the challenges and opportunities and significant processes that are going on in on the continent to bring agriculture, health, and nutrition together. So you'll be glad to know that I won't add to that list. In looking at our assignment, how we each do business, or how we will do business going forward, my thoughts immediately turned more to process than to content or to what we need to do. And so I ask you to just indulge me to think a little bit about that, about the how of the work that we do together. And I would propose that if we really want to meet the challenge of the crisis that we are facing, that Jay so eloquently spoke about yesterday, we really need to look at how we do things and ask ourselves whether the processes we use in our meetings, in our gatherings, actually will lead to the kind of transformation that we all want. One way we might want to look at this is just to ask ourselves a little bit about what forms of talking and listening do we use in our work. For instance, I think at this meeting and in most of our meetings, we always start off talking nice to each other. We don't really go beyond the surface. When we're all happy, we all say what we want to do, and we actually don't listen to each other. We just talk. And there's a certain way in which that's necessary that keeps the society moving. Then we move, of course, to the stock in trade of where I am now, an academic, and that's debating. Or we can say we talk tough. We have a point to make, and we will make it. And that's what we do. And a lot of what we have been doing here, I believe, is in fact moving towards debate. And that's important because that's how we sharpen our perspectives. That's how we sort out the differences. And we need that. How do we listen in a debate? Normally, we listen to either hear whether the guy thinks the way I think or how he doesn't think the way I think so that I can attack him or her. I can say, that's not true, I think this way. And so we debate, and that's a useful and important way for us to talk. But I would say that if we really want to come to innovative solutions for the problems we face, we have to move to dialogue, to true dialogue, and eventually to what we would call generative conversations. And by that I mean that we need to practice our skills in listening for understanding. And I set myself the task coming to this meeting to see whether I can actually try to do that. And by that I mean listening to really understand what a person is saying. So in a conversation, to follow what the person is saying by asking clarifying questions and really coming to the heart of what the person is saying. And I have to say, I find that very difficult. But I think that that is really something that we need to practice, is where is this person really coming from, and how do they understand it? And how do we create spaces in which there's enough time for us to do that? I think we've been very good here at rapid fire, and that's important because we have to share the information. But I think we also, probably in our conversations in the passages, had much more of the dialogue. And one of the challenges we're grappling with in the work that I do now is to actually create spaces for this kind of dialogue where we can actually spend enough time to come to some shared understanding of what's the really stuck issue we're trying to deal with here, and how do we move forward. In generative dialogue, we go even further by really trying as a group to begin to think what wants to come up or what can emerge from the way we work together. So just to say that what we are trying to do at Stellenbosch University at the moment is, on the one hand, to continue with the work of this Southern African Food Lab, which is an effort to create such a space for dialogue, but also for action. So it's not just a space for talking, but actually based on a shared identification of really stuck issues, to begin to prototype solutions. And what I have found in that process is that when you bring together people from the private sector, the public sector, and NGOs, and some academics, the conversation is often not fully informed with the research that's going on in the research community. So part of what we're trying to do is think through how can we make sure that these meetings have access to synthesized academic research information, so that they use that as part of the input. Of course, we don't think that's the only knowledge that you need for decision making. You need local knowledge and you need practical knowledge, so it's also how you bring that together. But then we also have now at the university a food security initiative, like many other universities and institutions. And the two challenges we face there is to make sure that the research that is decided upon in the sectors are actually informed by decision makers and by these kinds of processes where we identify the stuck issues. Are they addressing these issues? Very often we find the research is rather marginal to what the big issues are. So we need to figure out how to help the academic community to frame a research agenda that fits the problems. But then we also think that we think that if we run these spaces and places where people can truly dialogue, that out of that can come some very meaningful research programs, and that's what we are trying to achieve in doing that. And I believe that in working in this way, or practicing to work in this way more and more, we can begin to create what Otto Scharmer calls landing strips for the future, which would be places and spaces that look like the food system we want to create so that it serves everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mila. The turn is for the audience. Unfortunately, we are giving you less time, and you are very important to us. You have seen that the policies are available, the plans are available. Implementation is an issue. Coordination, the issues of advocacy, and also the quality of work which is being generated at different levels. As you try to raise some either questions or comments and also contributions, I would like you to think through on the actors, because the actors are the most important. How can we do business differently? Are the actors talking with one another? And are they sharing? Some are saying that maybe ministries of agriculture have more resources, and for us, we know that through empirical evidence indicates that actually it's recently there has been countries are responding to investment in agriculture, because the 10% which was over the requirement of the minimum requirement for budget contribution is the countries which have responded to that are very low. Health actually is 15%. So this kind of information needs to come out, so that you see that the actually ODA into agriculture has been going down. Investment in agriculture has been going down. It's only the last 1 or 2 years when we see something coming up again, but it is still extremely low. Now, bring out the success stories. Where are they? Where it is happening that there is good coordination of nutrition interventions at the countries, and perhaps things are changing. We are seeing at least light at the end of the tunnel. But as the General Assembly, when they sat and looked at the performance of the MDGs, I think we are not necessarily doing well, but we are having now a positive trend on the continent in Africa. but we want to do much, much better because we are still extremely low. So can I have your hands up, please? I see John there. I see, where are the, can you give John 2, then 3? I see the 3 hands so far.
Thank you, thank you. Chair, I think we are talking here about now walking the talk. We have talked here for a number of days, and a lot of useful information has been gathered. To me, I feel that if I'm assuming that we are the converted, and we are now going to evangelize others left behind. If that is the case, then the first step immediately to be considered is massive awareness creation through advocacy, synthesizing the good role models we have learned from here and others. And then down at the grassroots, capacity building, getting farmers organized, people with disability. I have not heard any mention about them. And these are very important. They are making a lot of contribution. They have got a disability, but that does not mean inability. They are doing quite a good job. Those should be brought on board as well. Then, of course, what are the tools we can use here? We have got the media. A good example is my colleague here from Zambia is running a community radio. We have got now problem with our extension services. We need a supplementary other route for reaching out the people at the grassroots. These people need to be brought on board with targeted information messages, synthesizing what has been said for private sector, for the academia, for the public sector, ministers, legislators. All this needs to be sensitized, by the way, right down to technocrats. So to me, sensitization is something that we can start with immediately when we leave here. If we can turn into champion to go and preach the gospel, then we can ask IFPRI to synthesize what they would have picked from the minds of people. In case of Africa, channel it through your office at the African Union, and then through your office at the African Union, send it out to champions at regional level, at national level, up to the grassroots. To me, that is the starting point for paradigm shift and for mindset change. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Dr. Namanga here, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this very stimulating discussion, presentations by the panel members. I think it was really impressive. I have just a few points. We can pussyfoot around, of course, and I'll go home. But we can also put a few things on the table. There are some things that don't cost much money. If we want focus at national level, maybe our ministries of agriculture should change their names a little bit. Ministries of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Security. Probably that will open it without costing $1 more. I think it will also therefore shape the kinds of people whom they recruit. It will gradually change, really, the approach. Ministries of Health are already national, okay, although they are more urban than rural. And the ministers of agriculture are mostly rural than urban. If you want the two to work together, it should have mandates that cover the whole country. I think it would be a way to bring together, to work more closely with this national, planning and development commission, as is the case of Ghana, which I think Ghana also, the ministry has a name also including food, isn't it? Very little of such a word appears in most ministries of agriculture in Africa. Secondly, I would say that maybe we should put a little more emphasis to learn from what we have learned here in these conferences, from one parallel session to the other. A country like Sri Lanka, which is no more advanced than many African countries, gave a model that they have used. First, they have increased basic literacy to 98% of their population. Secondly, they have 3 workers at each village level, tackling agriculture, health issues, and nutrition. If we can put such little packages together, maybe those will also bring about changes. Third, in Africa, virtually every village now has a primary school. I know teachers are already overburdened. But clearly, we can use teachers as agents of change at community level, where they can work with the young children from the young ages, using school gardens, using elements of school feeding to be able to bring about changes in perceptions and practice of nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I had identified somebody, I didn't get the name. Can you give the lady? Okay, please continue. Then you come in here in front.
I look like
that.
a lady, but...
No, you are not.
I'm not a lady, so please don't try to woo me. I subscribe to all what has been said by the two previous participants, but I wish to add that it's high time to get to know what is our problem and get to know how to solve them. Because if we identify the problem ourselves and we get to know the magnitude of the problem, we would know how to handle it. A successful story is in Uganda, where I happen to come from. When we got to know about AIDS, and we identify that we have a problem of HIV/AIDS, we really got to know how to work about it, and development partners really helped us to get where we are. With the nutrition, it is important that we get to know this problem. It needs to be quantified. We need to use our scientists in our respective areas to quantify these, and we inform our policymakers to understand that there is what? A problem. When they know there is a problem, they would know also that it's important to work together and also consider cross-cutting issues. Finally, the budget allocation approach is a problem in most of our countries, where we have been looking at how much is allocated to a sector, and the sector concentrates on the core responsibility, leaving out all cross-cutting issues. I think it is important for some of us who are in the planning to ensure that these things are mainstreamed, activities are known, and all those crossing sectors are covered in the budget allocation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now it's the lady who is having the microphone. Thank you.
You're not allowed. Thank you. Mine is a short one. My name is Philomena Chege from Kenya. I work with the Minister of Agriculture. I think here we have been talking about, and we have all agreed that it is necessary to leverage agriculture for improving nutrition. And I think the issue is how. How? What are we going to take home from here? And I think we have talked about so much about mainstreaming that into agriculture, the three sectors. But I think we should go beyond that and now come up with a rigor framework, both at the regional level and the national level. For example, for us in Kenya, for many years we had what we were calling food policy. Food policy was talking about access and availability of food, talking about the calories, and it was not talking about the nutrition issues. But what we have come up with is what we are calling food and nutrition policy, which we want to make it an act of parliament, and that one will be able to now tell the three sectors to work together and implement what we are talking about. So the legal framework is very, very necessary, especially for us in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Philomena. This lady here in purple from the Hunger Project.
Thank you very much. Emmy Simmons from the Advisory Committee for this conference and the Partnership to Cut Hunger and Poverty in Africa, a U.S. NGO. I think all my previous speakers have basically made comments rather than asking questions. And my question, I think, had to do with actions that are being taken to, in fact, define the problems of nutrition a bit more specifically, in terms of consumption surveys, in terms of intake surveys. I basically only heard about one reference to a DHS giving nutritional status. And that seems to be a little bit of a gap here. But the real question goes back to Mr. Chum when he said that basically globalization was causing nutritional problems in Africa. And I wondered if you could share just a little bit more on that very provocative statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have somebody here, these two here, and then next will be Bibi, after the two gentlemen.
Thank you.
Which two? Which two? There was another two.
I think there's somebody at the back.
Three gentlemen?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think Miller did hit it on the head. I think we don't listen enough. We should talk less and listen more. I think that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Really, we don't listen to the beneficiaries. We sit in conference rooms. We have no idea what the beneficiaries are telling us because we are not listening to them. We're just talking to them. I think we should listen more and talk less. Secondly, we must recognize differences. Let us not sweep the differences under the carpet, that there are no differences between agriculture, nutrition, and health. There are. We must appreciate them and be able to do something about them. Let's not hide it. It's not easy. I think the third thing I really want to know is we must note peculiarities in the different countries. No one size fits all. So no matter what plans you put up for Nigeria, it can't be the same for Ghana or for Sudan or for Kenya. We must recognize the peculiarities in different countries. And thirdly, we must be serious about our strategies. We have country strategies, country plans, and we ask donors to fund it. I think Tola really hit the nail on the head. Nigeria has nutrition plans, and it relies on donors, Micronutrient Initiative and others, to fund their strategy. We must be serious about our strategy. If we have strategies, let's be serious about it and actually be dedicated to doing something about it before we ask others to help us. I think finally, we must harmonize our language. We all use very different types of language to address the same problem. If we do not harmonize the language, the beneficiaries will not understand what we are saying.